Yeah, so I'm currently playing the game on my Steam Deck. I am enjoying it. I'm like slowly, like I finally got a decent amount of the powers through the game because I've gotten up to the fourth world, so I've started exploring the fourth world, which is like their casino world. And I've gotten enough of the powers where I can like, right, now I can go back, go through the older levels, unlock all the actual, like find all the not feathers, they're quills, find all the quills, find all the parchments, do everything, find all the ghosts, whatnot. And what I'm finding interesting, it's a cool world, it's a cool series of characters. Like I think the way they built the characters and animated them and their personalities are cool, but it does feel like it feels like a proof of concept in its close, like almost like an alpha to something that could have been a lot more fleshed out and a lot more tighter. And there's a handful of bosses that I've done that are sort of interesting but also fall flat in certain areas because they're just, you can tell like they're almost on a basic design philosophy and don't really do much to, like, I think like you said really perfectly, it does feel like something that's more emblematic of an older game from like the 64 era, but it doesn't feel like it's actually taking the next step. And even some of the things that feel like it's a 64 game, I feel like the 64 games did a better job back in those days. And that's a hard thing to swallow, especially when it came out in 2017. And mind you, I'm like, why didn't this game sell that well? Like, I get that it's not overly tight compared to a Mario. And I was looking at the comparisons when Mario came out, and Mario is like October of 2017. Yooka-Laylee was like in April that year. So there's quite a distance apart, but it's amazing the difference in quality that Odyssey offers from a platforming and even in a world building perspective. Now I get bigger company, bigger budget, and they've been doing it for a hell of a lot longer, so they've got that finesse to their development with which allows them to be a lot more, they know exactly how they want Mario to look and feel, and they have an idea of how the world's going to be structured. And they've been doing these platformers for so long, they kind of know how to structure the platforming. But it is phenomenal, the difference in the way the platforming in Yooka-Laylee works compared to Mario. And I'm not even just talking from like the kind of worlds, but just the platforming itself and the scaling of difficulty, where you kind of go with Yooka-Laylee, it's like they've built certain areas that feel like they are tighter or they're meant to be like more challenging, but they're really not. And the ones that are meant to be challenging sometimes feel a little bit unfair because they don't feel like they've really put in the effort with some of the structure of the platforming. Whereas I think Mario does a better job with offering a much wider gamut and variety to how the platforming works. So it goes from being very basic, jump here, jump there, like avoid these like pitfalls and, you know, spikes or whatever, to now we're gonna have platforms move on you or change color every time you jump or do all this other crazy stuff while you're also kind of trying to traverse the environment. And then we add all the like enemies on top of that, which also vary how you need to interact with those enemies. It's one of those things that I was like, even just on a close comparison, when I was playing Astrobot at Supers today, where Astrobot, there's like a similar handful of enemies like Yooka-Laylee, but Yooka-Laylee, all the enemies you kind of deal with in the same fashion, whereas Astrobot, sometimes you have to attack them, sometimes you need to kind of double jump to use your laser beam on it, sometimes you kind of need to use a different ability or like completely avoid the attack like at all. And then the platforming in Astrobot is like, it's like Mario level. It's like really tight. You feel like you're in control of the character. There's like a slight level of floatiness, but not to the point that you have no like instant control over what the character is doing at any given time. Even when you're using some of the different powers at certain points, like I'm doing this speed run where you are needing to turn into like this steel ball, in order to cross over like metal spikes and avoid getting burnt and whatnot. And when you activate it, it's instant. And it turns off instantly. And there's this gratification when you get the timing right and you're moving from like out of the ball, like into a ball and then back out of the ball, finding the platforming with the ball where you can't do like these big jumps, but you need to stay in ball form because it's like you're jumping from spike to spike to spike and it's like really tight. And there's a real sense of reward in the fact that we're giving you this really complex platforming sequence that we know that you can kind of do because we've given you the tools, and they're simple tools. There's nothing complicated. And Yooka-Laylee has that, but there's like also the level of complexity to Yooka-Laylee that Astrobot doesn't have. And yet Astrobot feels like a better platformer. And it's the same with Mario. Like Mario, for the most part, is literally just jump. And it's various levels of jump. Yeah. But how it handles the jumping and the timing and what it throws at you with the ability with jumping is just far better than what Yooka-Laylee does with the fact that, yes, you can jump. Yes, you can double jump. Yes, you can glide. And then you've got, yes, you can like suck up different types of bullets, which either change how you interact with the environment, which is the same as Mario's hat, where if I eat like a cannonball, I'm now heavy. So I can basically avoid not getting pushed away by wind. Or I grab fire, so now I can walk into fire. But it's like they don't really do anything overly interesting with those mechanics. And then you get like, I can turn invisible, I can do this, I can do that. But the way it all kind of flows together, it just... They've got like the energy systems and all this other stuff that feels like it's getting in the way of you just kind of moving from phase to phase to phase and just having fun with it. And focusing on giving you far better, tighter platforming and far better, tighter level design that kind of plays with all of the abilities in interesting ways. Like, if a game is unsuccessful, for me, right, as... which one was it? It was Little Big Planet, but it was the recent one that they released on PS5? Feels better as a platformer for me, compared to Yooka-Laylee, then Yooka-Laylee has missed the mark on something. And it's not to say that I'm hating Yooka-Laylee, because I think it's a good platformer, but you can tell that it's just like, you're almost there, but you needed like another 6 to 12 months to really kind of, like, you had all of the mechanics here, but I feel like you really needed to like either refine it or get testers to actually play it and kind of go, this is working, this isn't. And I'm now looking at what you're telling me and re-watching the footage from the new game. I am oddly curious about Replay and just seeing if it does finally achieve that tightness and that real kind of platforming edge that it needs, because it's missing that je ne sais quoi.
I almost feel like the game could have excuse me, could have utilized maybe early access.
Yeah, probably. See, didn't that go through, what is that called? Crowdfunding? I'm pretty sure that went through. Yeah.
Did.
Yeah.
Went through Kickstarter.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people got their hands on it. But it is amazing, like, how we are living in, like, a post-Mario Odyssey. But even before that, just thinking about, like, any Mario game. Yeah, just any Mario game. Like, yeah, it's really fascinating that platforming is still one of those things that seems to be too complicated for developers to get right. And make it fun. I don't understand, like, and it's
everything now relies on so much fidelity, so much mocap. I get it's a lot of work to animate.
Yeah.
It's why we haven't had a modern Tomb Raider platforming game.
Yep.
That's like the classics. It's that cinematic style. It's very controlled. The remasters of 1 through to 6, well, I won't include 6 as much because it's not that much more platforming.
Mm-hmm.
But 1 to 5,
Yep.
old school puzzles, very vertical, horizontal. You're exploring all the planes.
Yep.
That essence of platforming hasn't been around since, gosh, probably the PS2 days.
Yeah.
The Xbox. You know, when
The Legend series.
yeah, you
Yeah.
had even Jack and Dexter,
Yeah.
what Ratchet and Clank used to be, Sly Cooper. These games that really let go of this grounded experience and let you play with an IP, like full frontal, just here. We're not messing around. This is, you're playing a raccoon with a turtle friend and a hippopotamus friend. That doesn't exist as much anymore because everything's about, look at how realistic I have this character move in this world. So it's all more of a focus of your graphics, your how much GPU, CPU is being needing to render everything. It's more focusing on pushing tech.
Mm-hmm.
The indie guys, which technically Yooka-Laylee is an indie team.
Yep.
I appreciate that. That's where we're seeing a lot more of the fun old school style games.
Yep.
I've been going through a few on the Switch. I think it's Demon Run. It's like a 3D world, cel shaded, but the characters are all 2D, and it's really fun. And you have to complete the level and collect a couple of things. But the way you explore the levels through puzzles, you need to use your grappling hook. You might have to fight a few enemies. Anyways, it's a really fun game. But I think the movement from platforming has shifted so much, and I don't think we're going to see it as often. I think, and I'll never probably get a PlayStation at this point, because who knows what they'll release in the future that will grab me. But for them to release Astrobot, to me, was one of the smartest things they've ever done in modern game releases.
Yep. Oh,
That game
hands down.
grabbed the essence of what gaming is. Don't get me wrong, Last of Us, incredible, stunning. Same as Uncharted, stunning. God of War. But Astrobot was just, let's just have fun.
Yep.
Let's just go in a game, and not to mention all the IPs that are in there, the nostalgia. I get it. I'm talking as a mature adult here, so you know, I run off nostalgia. So seeing characters from games that are either gone and no longer exist to games that are still being released to this day is just so awesome. So to me, that was an incredible move on their behalf, and I really hope they do get some of their studios to go, okay, let's start releasing a bit more light-hearted adventures. Maybe have a small team make the... Here's hoping, gosh. Make the next Jack and Dexter game. Who cares? Just a small team. 50. You can do it. Maybe 33 people. I don't know.
I think there's this other side, and you're right with the animation. I think when we got stuff like Ubisoft making Assassin's Creed, where the idea of platforming was more about how is my character from a fidelity standpoint interacting with this world, where every jump felt controlled, and they removed that ability, that sense of loss, and so you end up losing this real kind of connection with your character and the world that you're interacting with, because you know that, oh, he's just automatically going to grab on. Like, you know, you get that gut-wrenching feeling when you're, you know, doing that jump for the first couple of times, but when you realize, oh yeah, he's always kind of, you know, you can see that the character is reaching. You can see that Lara is reaching because it's all within that perfect reach. There's no real sense of
We've had this discussion
Yeah.
before many
Yeah, we
years
have.
ago.
yeah.
You don't get discouraged when playing a game where you don't lose.
Yeah, there's no
Because you
no
can
failure
fail.
state.
We don't want you to stop playing the game, so we want you to not die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but why do you think Elden Ring is so enjoyable?
Mm.
Because you lose. That's the point.
Yep.
You need to lose. And platforming games were about losing and trying again and again.
Yep. Yep.
You're not going to get it always on the first try. And, sorry, yeah, you're right. The Ezio starting to auto-grab and, oh, well, I'm going to be able to get to the other roof quite easily and achieve my
look,
mission.
don't get me wrong, it's cool. Like I was playing a bit of Assassin's Creed, what's the newest one? Shadows today. Because Super was showing off the game and what you can do in the combat and all of that. And I'm like, yeah, there is something satisfying, and especially now that they've patched the game, there is something fun and satisfying about how the character kind of maneuvers through the world and just kind of just traverses and interacts with it. It is really impressive to see. But I don't get the same sense of connection, and this goes even doubly for the combat, right? Like I was playing the combat and I was saying this to Soup, and it's something that he wouldn't understand because he's never really played any of the Souls games. But
Sorry to interrupt. Can you
Yeah, go.
remind me, which one is Shadows?
Shadows is the one set in Japan.
Oh, the dual characters again.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So
bad.
no, that's all right. So I'm playing the game. I'm even like he's showing me all the combat, the different weapons, and I'm like, these are really cool animations. But there is something very arcadey, and even more like even when I say arcadey, something like a Bayonetta or a Devil May Cry still feels like you get a sense of hold on, let me finish. Gives you a sense of kind of independent control of your character, so you know exactly what move you're doing when and how. There is something about Assassin's Creed, I don't know what it is and why they've designed it this way, but it's almost like they've put the reins on you and you don't feel like your character moves off of a very specific line. You don't have like this sense of full control and autonomy over your character at any given time. And it feels like you are literally, it's almost like it goes from freedom to now you're literally almost in this really tight fighting game stance as you're performing whatever moves, counters, attacks, and stuff like that. And that's not to say you don't have control over your character, but there's a stiffness to how the character moves and feels as he attacks one person and another. And that's, you can tell that is purely based on how the back-end coding is working in order to accommodate for the fact that, well, we need to make sure that your character is going to be directionally capable of attacking exactly to the character that you want, whether you're moving straight ahead to the one who's like to the left of you or the one in front of you. And so it's just when you lock on, it's like like really like a Nazi, just really stiff to that whatever you're locked onto. Compared to Elden Ring or any FromSoft game, or even some of the other kind of Souls-like ripoffs that give you a sense of, okay, yes, I'm locked on, but I feel like I can still move in the space, and I might not necessarily, I might be attacking in that general direction, but there's like a sense of freedom in which direction I might choose to attack, even if that's my target. Like, I'm looking at that, but I can still attack to the left of me. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's like they don't trust the player to, like, God forbid you, like what you were saying, God forbid you make a mistake and then you have a bad time and then you put the game down because, oh, it didn't work for me. Okay. Well, then you clearly don't enjoy gaming enough to enjoy the push and pull and the challenge of it. Because, yeah, there's a certain time and place to have that kind of level of restriction. But at the same time, when you are playing something that's supposed to be open world and vast and kind of give you that freedom, suddenly controlling me down to those very specific movements means that there's no danger. Like, it's literally like always having a parent by your side, ready to kind of take control for you, you know, in case you might decide to cry. And it doesn't give you the freedom and the flexibility to, like you said, make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, try it again. And like in a Tomb Raider, I can easily just to see kind of, all right, have different difficulty or have a slider where, all right, we might put more checkpoints where you can either do this sequence and go through it properly the way we've kind of designed it, where if you fuck up, well, you got to do this whole kind of level or this whole kind of section before you like your next checkpoint, or just have more checkpoints throughout for an easier difficulty. Like, I think Astrobot does this really well, where they kind of go, look, we give you one life. Unless you're at a boss battle, we're just going to give you one life. If you get, and this is what's fun about Astrobot, most of the enemies don't actually kill you. There's only like 3 or 4 types of enemies that will actually like legitimately kill you. Otherwise, most of them are like, oh, we're just going to knock you back. So they're more annoying in the moment than they are actually aggressive. But the rest of the game is like, we're going to give you one life. And you got to get from A to B. It's going to be a short distance, but because we know you're a kid, we're going to give you this like really tight checkpoint. So there's like this sense of progression until you get to like obviously all the new content that they're adding and all the challenge modes where it's like, no. Now you should know this game. You should be comfortable with the mechanics. Now here's a long stretch of platforming that you literally need to be perfect at. Otherwise, you got to start again at the very beginning. There's no checkpoints in between. There's no half-assing it. You got to commit. You got to learn the level. And I think that kind of structure is far better than, yeah, what you're talking about, of just really making these characters so stringent and so dependent on these like fail safes of, well, we're going to make sure that instead of the character just falling through the, you know, missing or falling through, no, we're going to have them animate that they can grab stuff, or, oh, we're just going to have them land even if they're like not pixel perfect. And it's like, you're not really adding a level of danger to the actual scenario. You're not making every kind of move matter and important and vital, and making every decision that you make within the platforming sense a moment of triumph when you get the timing right, when you get the distance right, when you get whatever it is that is mechanically there. It's
in
go on.
Shadows, the combat, is it a different mode that activates, like combat mode, or you can sheath your weapons so when you go in combat it's only when
It
3 enemies are in a circle and you have to fight them in this circle?
I mean, it feels like that. It does kind of just go, it's not as stringent. Like, I wouldn't call it like going from Arkham Knight's combat to Arkham Knight Stealth. You know how like those are 2 very different mini games? How when you're playing stealth mode, it's not combat, it is like you get hit, you're dead. Versus when you're in combat, well, no, combat functions differently. The way the health pool and the damage, even from guns, is completely different. Like, it's like 2 completely different games. It's not quite that, but it does just feel like there's like a tightness to the character in how he's directing his attack that just feels a little bit more stringent, I think is the right word I'm using here. It just, I don't feel as in control of my character in the moment. I know that, okay, I'm going to be able to attack him and I'm going to be able to like defend and block and move out of the way, and that's all fine. But it feels like it's on a very, there isn't the free motion that I'm probably used to in something like a Last of Us or an Uncharted, where, yeah, there's a tightness to maybe the platforming, but when I'm engaged in combat, there's still a sense of freedom in how I'm moving. Now, granted, that's not combat. That is more, well, it's long distance combat. It's not really close quarters. But like, I think any FromSoft game, whether it's Sekiro, whether it's Elden Ring, Dark Souls, whatever it may be, you have, even if you're locking onto something, it's more of a, this is just a visual viewpoint that you're looking at, but you can still kind of move your character independently and then attack in whichever direction that you happen to move that fucking analog. The fact that we are choosing, that fact that you've chosen to lock on just your camera to that fixed point does not change how your character moves in the space. Whereas this, it's almost like when you lock on, the character goes, right, that is where I should be facing my attack direction. And I'm kind of, you're switching between, like, you can still attack other characters independently, but it's not like, there's no room for error, because you can tell that the programming is very much designed to, okay, there's a character 35 degrees to the left of the one I'm looking at, so that's exactly where I'm going to attack. Like, the analog stick is, it doesn't take into consideration exactly where you're positioning your attack. It just goes, that's roughly where you're moving because there's an enemy there. That's what you're going to attack. So there's no room for error. There's no room for failure. Which in one way, for some players, that's great. But for someone like me who's used to the fact that, okay, I'm going to, there's an enemy that's attacking me here, I'm going to attack in that direction. Okay, I didn't quite move the analog stick correctly. That's on me. I needed to move myself better. I needed to angle myself better for that attack. And there's that real sense of risk reward in your level of improvement with the game and your competency with how you use the tool that's, you know, designed for gameplay, as opposed to, no, we understand that, you know, using these things is intimidating and it's hard, you know, using a controller, so we're just gonna really kind of hone in and take all of those variables and just make it so that we know exactly what you're kind of sort of semi trying to achieve, so that there's no room for error. And I think that's where you lose that essence of, oh shit, there's a like these small little mistakes is what makes the fight more interesting, right? You know, the fact that Mario doesn't just instantly latch onto something, or, you know, he doesn't just perfectly land on something every single time. Or when he does this jump, it's like this floaty jump like fucking Lara does in the new Tomb Raider games. You have a real sense of, okay, when I make that jump, I gotta make sure that I'm really jumping at that last moment in order to get that distance, because that's going to matter. Or when I do that, you know, very unique double, triple jump that gives me the height or the distance, that I'm timing it right in accordance so I can get the length that I need. I mean, like, for Christ's sake, even the old Prince of Persia games were better at this. Which I find is so fucking funny. Like, there is a tightness with the Prince of Persia games, but it's still far more freer and more forgiving in how you move and how you interact, that it still gives you that kind of, I am timing my character, but you as developers have done a better job of understanding, okay, this is how many squares or how many meters, how you doing, Impulsive? How many meters the character is jumping. And it's just far better designed in that way, as opposed to, you know what, we're not going to worry about all the fine details and having to worry about making sure that everything's X amount of, you know, meters or squares away, because we're concerned that players are just going to find this too hard, or they're going to keep failing this jump. So we're just going to either make it yellow or add all these parameters that make it a lot more easier and streamlined. Because God forbid you make a mistake. God forbid you have to repeat a platforming. God forbid you have to go through a section of a level and die right at the very end just before the checkpoint and have to do it all again. If you make good platforming, it's fun to do it again. That's the fascinating thing. I did This level on Astrobot, this like new challenge level, I did it about 20 to 25 times. Still couldn't do it. Still wouldn't even get through the early area. Now, mind you, I'm playing it like maybe like a speedrunner where I'm like, how quickly can I get from point A to point B? Kept dying in this very like early section because it's tight. Like it's really tight platforming. The smallest mistake and you're, again, one life, one hit, and you're back to the start. And I probably would have kept going. But it's like, well, I'm at my mate's place. I'm not in my own comfort zone, and I'm not trying to do it for myself. So, yeah, I'm just trying to do it for a kid here because, yeah, this is fucking challenging even for me. I get why even his mom is struggling or his dad's struggling. So I'll give it a go. Shit, yeah. Now I'm watching Parker do it, and he's doing it, but he's like taking his time. He's kind of slowing down. He's stopping at points. He's kind of, breaking it down for himself. I'm like, awesome. You're doing it the way a kid would do it. You're unsure, you're unfamiliar, you haven't got the confidence and the bravado to just go, okay, how quickly can I get from A to B? And see what the points of failure are and where I need to get my timing right. No, awesome. You're doing it like a kid. That's exactly the best way to do it, and that's probably the safer and the mindful way. But the fact that the game accommodates for that level of play and doesn't expect it and gives that flexibility for a player like myself or a player like him, that's good platforming. And at no point was I frustrated in having to replay the level because, again, the stretches weren't long enough where I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, I gotta spend half an hour trying to get through this level. Like, they're just like bite size. Here's like, if you do this properly, it'll only take you a minute. Maybe a minute and a half of like pure focus concentration, which I think is perfect. But it's about, can you do that consecutively for that long, for however, maybe it's a couple of minutes, whatever it may be, and make it interesting and make it varied enough where you're like, okay, I'm like switching from one thing to another to another to another. I need to be mindful of here and the timing. Oh my God, I got here too quickly, and oh my God, I'm dead. And it's like you're having to like figure out the little puzzle, because it is in a form like a puzzle.
That was the fun part of
Tomb Raider
platformer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. Those first 5 games, absolute peak.
They don't make them like they used to.
invention.
They don't make them like they used to.
And I love the Legend trilogy. I thought it was an incredible mix of modern platforming of the time
Yep.
with the action adventure that Hollywood was going through as well. It was fun.
Yep.
I really hope they remaster those next.
I'm sure they will. I mean, they seem to be doing pretty well financially with some of those re-releases, so it would benefit them. And this is my only disappointment with Gex. This is why I really am just hesitant on even considering spending money on it, because it's like a bare bones, we barely even like did anything to it. At least with Croc, they kind of went, look, we're gonna give it a nice like real polish of the graphics and really kind of modernize it, and like with Croc, it's still Croc. There's nothing fancy, and you can see that it's an old game. It plays like an old game. It looks and feels like an old game. But it's just got that modern sheen where you kind of go, cool, the draw distance is nice. Is it nice to be able to have an option like, say Halo, where you can switch and change on the go between old graphics and new graphics? Sure, I think that's a nice touch. I appreciate that. That is the one thing that I appreciated with Yooka-Laylee, that they have that as a mode if I want. The fact that they put in the effort to make like a old school 64 version with like a shorter draw distance is fucking cool. And it looks legit like an old school game. But it's just unfortunate that the game is like, it's kind of lacking some like level of substance. It's so close. It's like right there. And the characters are really cool and they're quirky, and some of the writing, you're like, man, this is really well thought out. And then you kind of play it and you're like, there's moments I go, oh, this is brilliant. And other times I'm just like, It's like, yeah, you're like, you shit the bed here. This feels like an indie game, and this part feels really polished, and this part is really thought out, and I like how you did this. And then, oh, here's another part that just feels like something made by, you know, a college student or something. It's just, it's all over the shop. There's no consistency with it. Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for the next one to have.
Yeah.
Consistency in just a game.
See, it's funny because for me, the fact that they're going back as opposed to just making the next game, like I feel like they could have just made Yooka-Laylee 2, but it's almost like they just went, no, we want to get this game right. And I know from everything I've heard that the Impossible Lair is a better platformer. And, you know, this is the thing I get that it's very different to make a 3D platformer. Anything 3D is obviously going to be harder. I just find it funny that we've had far more successful 2D side-scrolling platformers than we've had 3D. Because a lot of the 3D stuff is like, you're so close, and you're not quite there. And the recent, and I haven't played through all of it, but the demo that I played of the recent Smurfs game was really fucking good. I know people bag the shit out of the recent Sackboys adventure, but honestly, as a Mario 3D World ripoff, it's fucking good. I was actually really impressed. Like, my wife and I both loved it and had some legitimately fun, challenging levels to it, which I thought was cool. Is it lacking personality? Sure, I can agree to that, but it's still a good platformer. And then you get Astrobot, which I'm like, fuck me, where did this come from? Can we now have Ape Escape back, please? I want Ape Escape. Give me a new Ape Escape. Let these guys, they made Ape Escape and Astrobot. Give me a new Ape Escape, because that was a fun platformer.
Ooh,
That needs a HD.
That. Just remaster all 3 of them.
Man, what is that team? Was it? No, not Blooper Team. Who are the guys that did the Demon Souls and
Blue Point?
Blue Point, yeah. Stop telling Blue Point to make live service games, shut the front door, go off, make me either go off and do Bloodborne, but if FromSoft for whatever fucking reason doesn't want you to do it, fine. Stay away from Bloodborne because you clearly didn't do a serviceable job for FromSoft with Demon Souls. Okay, go and do Ape Escape. Please, for the love of God, someone make Ape Escape. Bring that back.
They couldn't have closed down the Japan studios.
Yeah, but that Japan studios, everything I read, they weren't. It's like they were losing most of those teams anyway, and a lot of those guys are the ones that are currently at Asobi, who made Astrobot. That is your Japan studios. Yeah. So Asobi was what they kind of pulled out of what was left of like the core original team.
And turned it into another team.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because
No wonder.
Yeah, because Japan Studios Japan Studios, from what I read, and I think Colin talks about this, they were kind of like a group that was in charge of different little developers underneath. And Asobi happened to be one of those really good core teams that spanned from Japan Studios. But they obviously went off and started Asobi. And a lot of the stuff that they did early on was more for the VR until they kind of just got Astrobot working as a game and went, let's just make this a platformer. Okay, let's do like this tech demo for the PS4. Oh, for the PS5. Oh shit, that seems to be connecting with people. All right, let's make this a proper fully fledged game. Wow, this is actually popular and like people enjoy it. The fact that Supra's son Parker is watching videos online and is obsessed with Astrobot and is just I just want to play Astrobot. It's like, if you can make a character like that is pulling towards kids, you've done something right. Don't let go of that, because that is a hard thing to pull off nowadays. The fact that Mario has stood the test of time is fucking impressive. Oh man.
just consistency is the key.
Yeah, yeah, and how you market for which kind of market you're going for. Like, but
Yep.
yeah, you're right. There is, I think your other point of the fact that we went so far into games need to be taken seriously, like we need to be comparable to the movie industry, as opposed to, yeah, but we're still video games. It's still a way of play, and we've forgotten how to make fun entertainment that is just pick up and have a really fun time with a character and just explore this random bonkers world. Like, if a game doesn't have the level of Last of Us, or it's not, you know, a multiplayer level success that has microtransactions and live service and loot boxes, well, not loot boxes because we can't have those. Season passes, yeah, we'll call it something else. It'll be season passes and the other random mechanics here or there. With multiple currencies, then it's not really worth our investment and our time. So, as opposed to just make a really fun game with fun characters. Doesn't all have to be serious. Oh, yes, using our imagination is hard. So hard.